Welcome to the Seattle Investors Club podcast with Julie Clark and Joe Bauer, where we share the nuts and bolts of real estate investing from our 20-plus years in the industry. Sit back, relax, listen, and immediately take action. Are you ready? Here we go.
Welcome to the Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate Investing podcast. My name is Joe Bauer, and I'm here with my co-host, Julie Clark. Julie, how are you today?
I'm a little amped up today, Joe. I'm surrounded by about 10,000 pounds of Halloween candy.
Oh,
Makes it a little bit difficult not to snack on. What did I just have here to get fired up? A little bit of Reese's Pieces, little like M&Ms, but they're Reese's Pieces, and I must say they're pretty good. I know that's not approved by All Around Joe, but All Around Julie, I'm surrounded all around by candy. So today is one of those days. Did you see my daughter Katie's Halloween?
I did.
Makeup.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. That girl is now she had a lot of help. Shout out to her nanny Francisca. Thank you for that. If you guys saw that, if you're listening and you did not see that, many of you listeners or my friends on Facebook, check it out. It's like, holy smokes, this kid's 10 years old and she's never seen a horror movie, but for God's sakes, there's something going on. I think my favorite comment that somebody made when I posted her freaky ass stuff was, time to get concerned about your daughter. I thought that was pretty funny. So, good time. All amped up on the candy. I don't know. You've probably run about 20 miles today. So, a little opposite of my lifestyle. What are you up to? Where are you at? What you doing with the fantastic life?
Yeah, we're hanging out in Boston right now, which I've been to before, but Emily's never been here, so we're doing some of the touristy stuff around the area. We walked through Harvard yesterday, MIT, and we'll do the Freedom Trail Fenway tonight, after we get done working, and then, just hanging out here, trying to eat some good food. It is not cheap in Boston, though. It is not cheap, let me tell you.
I actually think I went to a Fortune Builders boot camp in Boston. It was pretty cool. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Can't remember which one it was. It was years ago, but I enjoyed myself there. There's something market or whatever, right? Right there in the city center.
Oh, there is. I can't remember the name though.
I can't remember the name of it, but we always try to find a great transition, and the transition that I have today is we're talking about Boston. And I don't know how to transition over, so I'm going to say shout out to Patrick from Maryland, which is out on the East Coast. That's all I got.
Yeah, so we're both on the East Coast, at least two out of three of us. So that's kind of something.
What's up, Patrick?
Not much. How you guys doing today?
We're good.
Awesome.
Now you have a little one, don't you? I noticed.
Yeah. We've got a 3.5-year-old girl. And we have got number 2 on the way, due December 2nd.
Oh.
Wow. Well, we're talking about data analytics today. Did you guys do any data analytics to decide now is the time to have number 2, or?
We kind of took the opposite approach of the data analytics, and it was more like, I think, we're good with 1 for now. And then Marv's like, I want another one. I'm like, all right, you get what you want.
There you go.
I've learned.
That's all good, right? Happy, what do they say? Happy wife,
happy life. Yes,
there you go. There you go. Well, awesome. Well, Joe, why don't you introduce us to your buddy Patrick here, and let's kick this down the road.
Yeah, so I've known Patrick for I think a couple of years now through buddy Eric B, and Patrick and I have connected on several fronts. So I'm excited to have you on the podcast here today, Patrick. But so that everybody else around the world can learn about you, take us through, where you grew up, how you grew up, what led you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I grew up in a town in Virginia called Roanoke. It's southwestern Virginia, as opposed to southwest Virginia. So kind of that corner down there next to Tennessee. Played music my whole life. That actually led me out to California after I graduated from college. Was out there for about 10 years. And how all the real estate stuff got started. You actually mentioned, Julie, Fortune Builders. I worked for Fortune Builders for 3 years.
Awesome.
Had never had any experience with real estate at that point, but learned very quickly, trial by fire, and then got into...
What were you doing for Fortune Builders?
I did sales for them. So
Cool.
I did the mastery program. I sold for 3.5 years.
Nice.
And got into real estate investing from that. I actually became a mastery student because I found myself talking to people all day, every day about accomplishing their goals. And finally one day I'm like, wait a second, why am I not doing this? So my wife and I got involved as mastery students and started flipping houses out in San Diego. And when we found out we were pregnant, she actually found out she was pregnant right when we finished a demo of our first ever flip. That led us on a course that brought us back east to be closer to family. And when I got over here, instead of getting a job, I said, we've got this real estate investing business. I'm just going to, start doing it full time on the East Coast. So I'm in the Baltimore, Maryland area. So starting in 2015, I was flipping houses and ended up partnering with a guy, and we launched another business and had that business going on for about 3 to 4 years up until this past spring. I think March or April, actually ended up selling it to my two business partners because I was handling all of our marketing and acquisitions and ended up getting into the data analytics side of everything and really fell in love with that aspect and decided that along with some other personal kind of more fulfilling side projects, like I do life coaching as well, wanted to really go after that and put my full time into that. So that's kind of where I ended up where I am now.
Awesome. So you met data analytics through real estate investing and decided that it was your true love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Man, I hope I find my true love through real estate investing and data analytics.
Well, it was more like I was pulling my hair out. I was frustrated. I didn't understand why things weren't working the way I wanted them to. And it opened up my eyes when I said, okay, I'm going to start tracking this stuff. I'm tired of trying to figure it out blindly. Let me see what the real story is. And it definitely opened up my eyes.
Right. I mean, this and this sort of thing, data analytics, I'm sure, as Joe can attest to in the fitness and the health arena, can apply to every aspect of your life with anything you do or want to accomplish. So it's the principles and concepts of understanding that data analytics needs to be in your life as one of the main, studies and things that you know about, right? I mean, everybody needs to know about data analytics and how important it is for whatever it is that they're doing, whether that be, right, Joe, health and fitness or real estate investing. So obviously today we're going to talk about real estate investing, but this is a topic that you never really hear anybody talk about too much. You just hear about people, complaining a lot about their stuff not working. You do hear a lot of talk about KPIs and things like that, but not as much as I would think. I don't, it's almost like it seems to be a higher level realization that data analytics is a very important term and stuff in your world as a real estate investor. So that's awesome. So you jumped into the data analytics arena, leaving your flipping job. So you're done flipping now, or?
Yeah. I mean, unless something, someone brings an opportunity I can't pass up. I've still got a great relationship with my old partners. If I find anything, I just take it to them, and they run from the boots on the ground standpoint.
And have you always applied your love of data analytics to real estate, or have you, used it for other things?
So I did without knowing I was doing it. I've always been an inquisitive person, which had a lot of advantages, but also got me in a lot of trouble. I was always that kid who wouldn't accept an answer for just the answer. I always had to know why. I remember there was I had a teacher when I was in 5th grade who at one point made me stop asking questions in class and start writing them down because I always wanted to know why. I wanted to know the why behind something, why this did this. So I've always kind of measured things, but not to this level. And when I got into real estate and I couldn't really, fake my way through it, I needed to figure out why stuff actually wasn't working. When you put dollars on the line and you're spending all this money and you're not getting the return that you expect, or even worse, you're not getting a return at all, you gotta start understanding why one thing would work, but why the other wouldn't.
So that's a very good point. For all of you listening today that are out there that feel like you're not getting anywhere, or you're failing, or it's not scaling how you want to, this podcast today is going to be an eye-opener for you, because this is going to be the way that you're going to push through and make it work. You're going to be able to, focus on data analytics or learn about data analytics and why that's going to be important for your business to get over the hurdles and the humps and the whys, right? Figure out the why for your own business. We're going to focus on that today as well. So tell us where you're at right now and what you're doing right now, and as applied to the data analytics that you're at Postal Impact. What's Postal Impact? And tell us what you're doing there.
Yeah. Postal Impact is it's a white glove direct marketing company that works with high level real estate investors across the country.
And what is the definition of white glove, so everybody understands what that means for you guys?
Yeah. So white glove is the easiest way to explain it is we take care of it for you. A lot of the marketing I did when I had my own business was figuring stuff out on my own. What postcard should I use? What mail should I, what campaign should I send out? What list should I pull? When I pull lists, how should I pull them? Postal Impact really got started by two sisters, Christina and Brenda Krause. And they were really good at just pulling leads. Like originally started off as they were really good. They had a system of pulling probate leads, and expanded from there because they found ways to pull different lead types, and they've got a really good system for mailing them. And it really takes that part of the business off the investor's plate. There's a saying that investors are good at what they do because they invest. They're not always the best marketers. Some of them are. Some of them are marketers who happen to be in investing. A lot of people are really good at going out and getting deals. So this really allows people who want to expand or diversify or hand over their marketing efforts to someone who focuses solely on marketing. Similar if you were going to hire a financial analyst, go with someone who focuses on financial analysis all the time. That's what we really do. And the reason I'm with them is I'd met Christina through a mastermind we were both in, and I was doing all of the data analytics on a consulting level, and was telling her what I was doing and about my background. And she said, we've been looking for someone to do this for our clients for quite some time. And the trouble they were having is they were focusing on just data analysts or people who could program a model or an algorithm to look at this stuff. The challenge is they may not have had the real estate background to know what real estate investors were really looking for. I happen to have both. I was really into data analytics. I was really good at doing that stuff. And I had the real estate background. So I came on with them in August, started working with their clients, tracking our campaigns, and just really deep diving into why things were working, how to improve the things that weren't working as well. And it really led to the creation of this whole system of taking the data from marketing as well as what the teams within the companies were doing, and finding the patterns that allowed us to ask the right questions. Why, like you said, start with why. Why is this working? Why is this not working? Can you give me
an example? Give us an example of something that you guys have found with a client and analyzed and help them solve a problem or put them on a better path to success.
Absolutely. So one of the easiest examples to give is a lot of people track their the amount of leads that come in, their basic response rate, how many leads come in based on how much mail they've sent out or how much they've spent on PPC, and how many deals or contracts they get. When you're just looking at that and something isn't working, we typically try and rationalize it with the information we have. So if I have 2 campaigns running at the same time, one of them's getting more deals, that campaign is working better because the only thing I'm looking at is how many deals I'm getting. One thing we've found is that when you dive just a little bit deeper in and you track things like your appointments, how many offers you're making, what your appointment to lead ratio is. So what percentage of your actual leads are you booking appointments with? And then are you making offers on all of them? Or what is the amount of offers you're making compared to how many appointments you're going on? And it gets you in there because something we found is, as simple as sometimes one campaign's doing better because you're booking more appointments with it. Now, when I say it like that, everyone in the world would go, well, duh. But if you're not tracking that, you're never going to know to ask that question. And you're never going to know one is doing better because of that. And then that leads to another question. Well, why are you booking more appointments on this campaign as opposed to this other one? It could be something as simple as maybe you have an inside sales rep who takes all your calls and they're much better at conversing and building rapport with a certain lead type. So they tend to get more appointments booked that way. Or maybe your acquisitions guy or girl or whoever's handling that is better with that lead type than the other one. And it allows you to do one of 2 things from there. Is it a matter of I need to get my people better at dealing with this other type of campaign or that lead? Or do I need to bring someone on whose personality type fits that other campaign? So now you see from asking or tracking one simple thing, we've now dived deeper and deeper and deeper. And now we have unbiased data that allows us to make better informed decisions because it's telling us the real story as opposed to the story we're telling ourselves and rationalizing the decisions we make based on what we think is going on with limited information.
And I think something to point out in what you said, which is all awesome stuff there, right, is that just because you're having a success with something, let's say you are doing well with getting deals and setting appointments, if you would, and maybe that's when people are like, oh, it's going well. Yeah. So they just cruise along and they don't do the deeper dive because it's not a failure and it's a success. Mm-hmm. If you dive deeper, even if you're having success, you might be able to, massively increase your success by some tweaks or whatever on these, topics that we're talking about, like phone skills and, your acquisition person or how that matches up to the list you're mailing and so forth like that. Right. You know, those key performance indicators. What do we track, the amount of units we mail out. And then we track, what else do we track, Joe? The amount of units we mail out. We track how many calls we get, whether even if those are take me off your list type calls, and conversions of calls to appointments, conversions of units mailed to appointments, and then, deals to appointments, contracts to appointments and all that stuff. It's a lot to track. And it's important to make sure those numbers are there's one thing to track them, but we even our own CRM right now, we've had some hiccups with that doesn't accurately track it. So that's, knowing to do it and then having those numbers very accurate might be 2 different things, but how about a list? The list plays into there, right? Somehow. I know that this year for us, what I'm trying to do is more analytics on our actual list, which plays a role. How do you guys do, I know you guys are probate leads and you service other type of leads, but do you have different analytics for different types of lists?
Yeah. I mean, we also measure things like, and I'm sure you guys do this based on what you just told me, but cost per lead, cost per appointment, cost per contract, cost per deal. You can base a lot of that on the type of list. One thing to consider is you typically mail different amounts to different lists. Like you're not going to mail the same amount of probates as you are to some like a bigger net like an absentee list. What you can do though is
why is that?
Well, there's typically more absentees than there are probates.
Okay. Oh, I thought you meant the amount of times that you mail them.
Oh, no. We do track that. We do track also how many touch points it typically takes. One of the, I say this because I'm a data nerd, but the things I get excited about is figuring out average amount of touch points that you need to mail each campaign. That does vary from market to market. Different things like just pace. You're in the West Coast, and Joe lives out there, but right now he's in Boston. I'm in Maryland. There's a different pace on the East Coast as there is the West Coast and in the Midwest, and you start to see that. You start to see.
That's interesting that you say that, because I always think about these big coaching programs and stuff like that where people are signing up for that stuff. Even Fortune Builders is great. Joe and I are Fortune Builders. You're Fortune Builders, right? Shout out to Fortune Builders. I'm not talking any coaching, I'm saying, right? Where it's a big, awesome, super info source and training thing. But the coach you might have could be in Ohio when you're in Seattle. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know when they're training on data. Maybe I don't know if they train on data analytics or they advise on how many leads, the averages that we're talking about on how many, which touch could be different in Ohio than it is in Seattle. So I was wondering how they coach on that when they're all in different markets.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that we're working towards, if you would kind of call it the 2.0. And this isn't something we've put out there a whole lot, but one of our big focuses moving forward is we refer to it the shared economy of data. So if I'm working with you in Seattle, there are going to be markets similar to Seattle and may not be exactly the same. Like there may be a market where it's, similar population size, similar median household price, similar median household income, that will share some similarities. We're starting to look at it from a standpoint of what works in this market that also works in a market of similar size, or what is working in that market that maybe someone else isn't doing in this market. And then what are they doing that's working that maybe you're not doing?
Based on you guys because you have an existing client base that's spread out, right? And you're able you have data internally already. You're have an advantage there.
And again, the whole theme of this is using unbiased data to make better informed decisions. One of the coolest things I like about what all this does for you is it allows you to ask the right questions. It's not always going to just slap you in the face with the right answers. Most of the time, it's gonna be a matter of taking what you the data you have and either you figuring out or having someone like myself who focuses on analyzing the data, figure out what the questions that need to be asked are. And then from those questions, you start to dig deeper and dig deeper and dig deeper. And that's when you find the answers, is the digging. The digging is what gets the answers. The data is what helps you discover the right questions to ask.
Exactly. I'm saying, like, people might stop when they feel like they're having success, but that's the perfect time to dig a little deeper.
Yeah. That's why what worked last year doesn't work this year. If exactly. And here's a really good point. If you're doing something that works now and you've been doing it for the past 3 or 4 years, and I wanted to bring this up earlier, and I'm going to tie it back to when you said you don't hear about data analytics a lot in this industry. A lot of that is because we've been in an uptick market. When market is good, a lot of the things that could potentially derail you in a down market are covered up by the market.
Super valid point. Yes.
So if you're not tracking this, if you don't understand how to track it in a good market, when the down market comes, or even just a leveling out, it could potentially hurt your business. So learning how to track stuff in this market allows you to get good at it, allows you to understand what to look for, so that when the things start to happen that could show that market is changing. Maybe we don't see, what happened 10 years ago happen again, but maybe it just levels off for a while. And if you're relying on what's working now, but you don't know why it's working, or you don't know what about it is working, or you don't know the difference between the one that's working and the one that's not working, or how to look for that, you're not going to know those questions to ask when things change.
Or you're going to be late to the party and maybe stub your toe before you wake up, right? So this is your wake up call, everybody. We got some changes going on. Now's the perfect time to make sure you understand all this type of thing. Are there let me ask you first. So you guys, how we track all this is through, we'll say Podio or Investor Fuse is how we do our analytics, unless Joe, you want to pipe in and say I'm wrong, because I absolutely could be.
Nope, you're right.
Yeah. So what kind of CRM does a guy like you use, or is CRM even the right word for data analytics, tracking and analysis for what can, is it as simple as just making sure people have a robust enough CRM that they've set up reports to track this sort of thing, or what's your advice there?
So I think there's two questions within there. The CRM that people use, so part of where this has led us is consulting on that as well. We work with investors who use Podio quite a bit. It's what I used. I'm really good at working within it. When I talked about the data telling you what's going on in the business, we have actually had marketing campaign data show us that someone didn't have their CRM set up as effective as it could be. So it had nothing to do with the marketing campaigns. It showed us internally within their systems where their improvements could be. As far as the CRM, the guidance I've always gotten and the guidance I always give is figure out the one that works for you.
Right.
If you have a really complicated Podio and your sales guys don't use it, it's not the right CRM, or they're not the right sales guys. Find something that works for everyone, that does what you need it to do. Like I always, whenever I'm talking to a client, I'll look at it as, okay, what is it we actually need to do? Do we need to build this big complicated Podio? Do we really need all these bells and whistles? Or is it we simply need to know when your guys book an appointment?
I feel that's where I'm at with that whole topic right now. I feel like there feels to be, all this stuff that are these bells and whistles that are available. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know that I need those. I just need the KPI reports to be accurate and, to make sure we're, like you said, that's kind of, that brings up like people switching to Investor Fuse from Podio, which I think part of the problem is that Podio is, I don't know, not as easy, or maybe there's going to be some improvements on the data analytics with Investor Fuse. I don't know. Do you know anything about that?
I know they're building pretty robust KPI dashboard into it. I've been following those guys for quite some time now. As far as what we do, we don't run the analytics in the CRM. Reason being is because we work with a large number of clients around the country. As you can imagine, everyone has something different. I didn't think there was a way that I'd run across a CRM in real estate that I hadn't used, and probably every couple of weeks I do. So we use more of a database system that we can pull stuff out of and run it through our models to show both what campaigns are doing individually through the pipeline, what they're doing all together, whether it's direct mail, online, cold calling, everything out there, as well as what the team is doing, what your acquisitions guys and girls are doing throughout the pipeline, and then we combine them. So we say, what are the campaigns doing? What are the results all the way through, down to the smallest detail? Put them all together and look at them, apples to apples, and then take what your team is doing with all of that and put all that together and say, okay, well, where can it be better? Where is it breaking down in that pipeline? Is it the campaign that's not doing well, or is it the team that's not doing well with the results of the campaign, or is it certain spots within that pipeline?
Super awesome.
Who isn't doing this? It's really just start tracking something. Track your call.
With that being said, are there like some, 3 to 5 baseline things that you can advise or offer to the listeners here today on what they should, if they're not tracking now, what are the basics that you need to get started on to move in the right direction to becoming, a tracking ninja? Aside from the fact that if they want to make their life easier, they could also, they need to do both, right? So somebody would need to have their own system of tracking their KPIs, and then maybe layer that on top with somebody like yourself and Postal Impact to even take it to the next level, right? They have to be involved somehow or not. If they work with Postal Impact, they need to have their own, obviously everybody's going to have their own CRM, right? Mm-hmm. And then your service is like a layer on top. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. The clients we work with, we're doing all the tracking.
Does that mean that their leads just come directly into stuff that you're tracking?
We
right?
plug into their system and pull out what we need.
Okay. That sounds good.
So it's almost like you've got your, you've got your bucket and we simply hook a hose up to it to go to ours.
They just invite you into their Podio or something?
Yeah. There's 50 different ways we do it simply because it's not everyone using Podio or everyone using Investor Fuse. There's so many CRMs. And again, people typically use what works for them. So it's more, we've got our system on how we analyze everything. And the labor intensive part is just getting it from there to us. To answer your other question, the basics are always going to be, what you're sending out, what you're spending, how many calls are coming in, how many of those calls are actual leads. So you get 100 calls and 30 of them are either, I don't have a house, I'm just renting, take me off your list, don't ever call me again. We all know that one. Figure out your response rate from calls to how many mailers you're sending out, because that tells you what kind of response rate the mail piece is doing. And then also figure out your response rate from your actual leads to how many you're sending. And then going through that, it's just your appointments, your offers, your contracts, and your deals. That's the building block of everything.
Yep. Exactly. That sounds good. You guys should be taking notes if you're listening. Do you guys find that there's equal value or more value one way or the other on list quality versus mail piece quality? Or is there or is there a wonderful marriage between the two of some sort of something,
It's always some sort of something.
Right.
There isn't a magic pill. We've seen a mailer that could be considered the holy grail for some investors get nothing for others. And then we've seen some lists work in some areas and then not work in others.
Hey guys, Joe here. I just want to take this super quick break from the action to let you know something that we have really cool to offer you guys. As you know, marketing is the lifeblood of our real estate business, and Julie and I spend a ton of money sending out postcards and letters to people all around the Seattle area. We've partnered up with YellowLetters.com to get you guys 10% off all of your marketing needs at Yellow Letters. All you have to do is go to YellowLetters.com, and when you check out, use the code Seattle Investors Club, and you'll get 10% off any of your marketing needs at YellowLetters.com. You can send postcards, letters, whatever it may be that YellowLetters.com has, so that you can keep your marketing engine running for a little less money. So go to YellowLetters.com, use the code Seattle Investors Club with no spaces, and get your marketing going today. All right, let's get back to the action.
How about postcards versus letters? Is it like you want to, mail letters to probate and postcards are good to go? Or you just, since you're going to ideally have a campaign of, let's say however many touches, 10 or 12 touches or something, that you're going to mix it up. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, we typically see letters get a really good response. One of the conversations we always have internally is figuring out we call it the impact coefficient. What does that difference really mean? So if I spend 3 times as much on a letter and I get 3 times the response on a letter, does that actually mean that if I send 3 times as many postcards, I'll get that same response rate? Or is that a different person who responded to a letter that simply wouldn't have responded to a postcard at all? And this is what I mean. There's no magic pill. It's asking these questions and testing it.
And it could, like you said, it could be different in every market.
Yeah, we always send both. I always say send both. Because one, if anything, it'll tell you the results. But two, there are always going to be people who respond to something that just do not respond to something else. I could say send letters to probates. That's what I personally did. That's what we do at Postal Impact. But I guarantee you there's someone who's going to, send me an email or a message and say, I've done postcards to probates for the past 15 years and I'm one of the wealthiest investors in America. So there is no definitive way to say.
Plus, this is something I've been thinking about is there's each list, let's say you're mailing to the same probate list, has a different segment of people that respond to a letter versus respond to a postcard, right?
There you go. Yeah.
So, that's a good test, right? Is to see if, and then you have to mail them several times to see, I guess, if that is consistent or whatever, right? Or there's so much that can be done. You just have to keep asking that why, test. My fear is that people feel like they have a certain level of success, and then they stop, which, I'm excited about pushing through that
or they mail something twice and they don't get, a good response when, I one thing I will say is typically we see the uptick start on the third touch. That's a baseline you can have. So and you're still going to get stuff on the first 2. It's just if you look at like an overall pattern, typically what we're seeing is the first one. Is
this related to probate mailing though, or just in general with other high equity lists?
Yeah, in general in direct mail.
Okay.
Because probate's a little different. Probates, I mean, sometimes you got to mail them for a year before someone calls, because the probate process is so different than like an absentee or a high equity. You have the courts involved. Different states have different probate laws. You have to bring different people in. Sometimes there's one executor. Sometimes there's seven siblings. It's much more of a emotional lead process. A lot of times, not all the time. Takes sometimes it takes a lot more empathy. But for we call them blended leads. So your absentees, your equities, your stress, stuff like that. Typically what you see is the first one, you get a lot of calls and a lot of opt-outs. Second one, you get less calls, slightly less opt-outs. Third one, you start to see an uptick back in those calls and a downtick in the number of opt-outs. But it also changes. It changes on what the hot marketing channel is right now. Like if you've got some of the high up guys that are pushing a certain marketing channel, whether it's PPC or cold calling or direct mail, you may see competition and uptick, which does it does skew your results. Everything is ebbs and flows. That's why consistently tracking, you'll start to see patterns, and you can start to make better predictions and start to dig deeper based on those patterns. This isn't.
Are you guys speaking along those lines? You can answer this, or you don't have to answer this. But what are you seeing right now? Seems to be at this time. What's worked, you think, in the past year, and what might be changing to working? Not that you're the crystal ball predictor, but there's so many ways to. I think one of the guys I listen to is Sean Terry. Flip to Freedom. What up, Sean? We love you, man. As well as Fortune Builders and everybody else. But he's using this word called pre-framing, which I like, is pretty interesting, right? And so you're just touching them from all different sides. I think he has a branding approach to that. But, with the ringless voicemail and the texting and the direct mail and the, cold calls and the Facebook display ads, Google display ads, trying to do direct display and things like that, retargeting and all that stuff. Is there anything that from your involvement in data analytics that you feel is something that people need to stay on top of these days? Or, as different things work in different markets once again, but is it like you need to have a line in every stream, or you need to be a ninja and focus on one? What do you think?
It depends. I know that's been my answer a lot today, but that's why we do all the tracking. Some people with a higher budget can, kind of dip their toes in all these different channels, and that's what works best for them. Other people with limited budgets need to focus on something that, they can commit to.
Do you think if somebody has a limited budget, do you find that there is one channel of marketing that's a good starter version? I mean, it's easy, direct mail, but I mean, Facebook is pretty inexpensive these days and things like that. Do you have any advice for our listeners on that?
Ask yourself what you feel you're strongest in. There are some people who have built empires on trustee sales and foreclosures, even in this market. I know people who are still getting stuff off the MLS as their main deal channel when everyone else has said there's no more deals on the MLS. If you are a hard-charging hustler, pick up the phone, call people, do direct mail, go knock on doors.
Right. Wear the glove that fits.
Exactly. Play to your strengths. And I'm sure I'll get someone reaching out to me to that has the opposite side. But we always use the term, get the right people in the right seats, doing the right things with the right people. That's really where it comes down to playing to your strengths. If you're really good at one thing, go do that, because you have the best chance at doing well there. And you have time to build from there. You have time to, get deals under your belt and build a team from there. If you're already big and you've built your business on one thing, then maybe it's time to diversify and bring in people who know how to do that. One thing we see sometimes is people who have never done direct mail, and they jump into it and they're working with people who have never taken direct mail leads. But then other times we see people who think about it from a standpoint of, we've never done direct mail, so I'm going to get an acquisition person who's done this before.
That is definitely, what I tell people. One of the videos that we do, with our marketing, Seattle Investors Club, and here the Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate Investing podcast, which is really a national podcast. I say, when people are getting started, what's the very first thing you should do? And they say, I need to get my website up so I have credibility. I need to, do this and do that. And what I always tell people is, no, you need to take some time and you need to assess what you bring to the table. Mm-hmm. And nobody's going to kick butt and grow and scale a business necessarily on their own, or you'll be limited at some point, right? So find out and assess, have a true look at yourself, and what do you bring to the table? Is that you're a real estate agent and you have access to deals and, can, save money that way? Or, are you a contractor? Are you a data analytics person? Do you just have money? Maybe you have money, right? Family money or your own money. Where do you fit in? Or do you have hustle? That's one of my favorite ones. Hustle is a thing. Mm-hmm. Not everybody has hustle. Yeah. Hustle is a skill set, right?
Of course.
And analyze for yourself. Don't worry about all the, websites and business cards and logos and, how to flip a house when you don't even, have a house or a lead to, deal with yet. Go find yourself and be ready to attract a partner that has an opposite skill set than you do. That's what I tell people, because two people that do the same thing or two people with no experience don't get very far, right?
Yeah. And from my standpoint is, whatever you do, track it. Exactly. If you're knocking on doors, track how many doors you knock on, how many it takes you to get someone who will actually talk to you for 5 minutes, how many it takes you to actually get someone to let you walk through their house, and how many it takes you to get a deal.
Exactly.
There's something to be said about tracking whatever you're doing, because then you can repeat it. If I know that I'm doing this and this is how I approach it, and that's where you figure out what works for you by tracking it. Measure how many. Try 2 different approaches.
Exactly.
And then measure, split test them. You've heard of everyone split testing like PPC campaigns and squeeze pages and postcards and stuff like that. You can test You can split test a door knocking campaign.
Can you give our listeners a simple example of what a split test might look like for a direct mail campaign?
Yeah, a split test could be, we talked about this earlier, it could be something as simple as I've got this list. I'm going to mail this percent of letters and this half letters, this half postcards. And I'm going to track what happens from there. Where do I get more calls from? And then of those calls, which ones are most valuable? How much did it cost me to get an appointment from each campaign? How much did it cost me to get a deal? What kind of people was I on the phone with from each? Sometimes you'll get people who call from a letter that are much different than people who call from a postcard, because people have been getting bombarded with postcards and they get a letter and it's refreshing.
Right.
Again, everything I say is to be taken with a grain of salt from a stance of this is what you do. When I say it may be refreshing for someone to get a letter, that doesn't mean if you go send a bunch of letters, everyone calling you is going to be like, hey, I want to sell you my house. Just come on out. I'll give it to you.
Right. And let's not forget about envelopes too. That's a topic of, I don't know if that's, imitation style envelopes versus polka dot yellow envelopes versus business envelopes versus windowed envelopes. Those are also tests.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've even measured down to how we seal the envelope.
Wow. How do you seal the envelope? Now I find that interesting. That's like, are there some secret ways to seal an envelope? What does that mean? Like a sticker on the back, or you drop some wax or something on there? I mean, what do you do?
You test it. You test it. The only reason I'm not going in here is I don't want to get a call from my boss after this podcast comes out and be like, you just gave away our biggest thing that attracts our
Okay, yeah, I got you. Hilarious.
But I can tell you,
if you guys, what you guys
every way you seal the envelope.
I hear that.
If you even seal it. That's what
or you guys could all just sign up with Postal Impact and let them do it for you. That's
there you go.
Another option right there. Oh, that's funny. Now my mind is racing. But, I'll tell you, switching a little bit of gears, is one of the very, very hot topics out here in the Pacific Northwest, because our real estate is so expensive and has been. It's, coming down pretty quick as of recently, still expensive in overall terms, but we are in a market adjustment here right now. We'll see what happens in the spring where that lands, but people are very interested. We have a smaller, we kind of have a really close-knit investing community. A lot of people know each other, and the big topic is out-of-state investing. People are getting a little bit tired of flipping, or they want to do something. They realize that flipping is a day job that creates ordinary income that gets taxed at the highest levels. And so they're realizing they need the balance of, buy and hold rentals purely for the tax purposes, let alone, just another investment vehicle aside from I'll call it the day job of flipping, for a lot of people. And analytics is a hot topic, I would think, that everybody would be interested in regards to which markets to invest in. I mean, we've been talking about data analytics in regards to your own real estate investing campaigns, but what about data analytics in regards to other markets to, invest in, right? Which markets are hot for multifamily investing or, single family rentals, everybody's passive income club through Fortune Builders or Memphis Invest, or now they're in Denver, it seems like that would be when those things happen. I always think, well, God, that seems like it's going to get saturated. If Fortune Builders has $50,000 students and they're all investing in passive income club and buying properties in Memphis, doesn't it seem like you might want to, if you're not, you do that and diversify your portfolio and find somewhere else to invest as well? Do you yourself, I don't know if Postal Impact does that type of data analytics on which are the up and coming markets to invest in based on maybe asset class or whatever it is you're looking for, multifamily or single family, or, real hot topic these days, I think, is storage. Self-storage, hot. You guys do any of that kind of, or maybe would you possibly see yourselves going down that path of an assist and consulting?
Yeah, we don't do it currently. It is on the path of where we see all this going. But one of the things that we feel very strongly about is living by the words we preach. So, one of the questions we always get asked is this going to be a subscription model that I can sign up for later, or is this going to be, more white glove like the rest of your marketing does? And we're going to let the data tell us that.
Good answer.
If we see that this is what's needed, truly needed, then, and we see that it's a good play for our company and what kind of company we want to be, then it very well could be an option down the road. But if we see that there's something else that makes more sense for the clients we're working with, or the clients we want to work with, or how we want to build this business, then we'll go that way. It really comes down to, again, using that unbiased data to make those informed decisions. And I'm going to reiterate this point, if you don't mind. Like, there are a lot of investors who lead with their guts and, that gut instinct. And that's going to get a lot of people a lot of success. The hard part is you don't know if it's the market that gets you that success off your gut instinct, or if you're actually doing the right thing and you're just really good or really lucky. Listening to that data takes away from rationalizing, again, the story you're telling yourself and making decisions based on that rationalization, as opposed to looking at what's really happening. So if we as a business are going to go out there and say, this is how you get better, like, this is how you be better now, then we're going to do the exact same thing ourselves. And we're going to look at our data, and we're going to look at what makes the most sense for us as a company. Not to veer off too much, but you mentioned, what is the first thing that you tell someone who's getting into this? And it's for me, it's, what kind of business do you want? Do you want that flipping business or that wholesaling business that's a job? It truly is. And there are people that run successful businesses, but they have employees doing that. Or do you want to be that lender? Or do you want to be that buy and hold? We're determining what kind of company we want to be in the long run. We are letting the data tell us how we're going to get there and what that path is going to look like. That's something I always push out to people, is let the data steer what you're going to do, but don't let it control what you're going to do. You still have to come in and make decisions. And that's what differentiates who's going to be successful in this business and who's not, is being able to make decisions. And the really good people are able to make decisions, and they're able to live with the results, and they're able to pick themselves up when they get knocked down and lick their wounds and keep going and go right back and say, okay, what about this decision was wrong?
Right. They don't necessarily worry that a bad result happened. They take that as a data analyst point, right? It's not like I'm going to quit because I got bad data. Yeah. It's that now that I have this data, I know that I should pivot or I should change something, right?
Or what about that decision? Where did that go wrong? There's a difference in between I failed, I'm a failure, and I failed, I made a bad decision based on what? And right. So that also comes into play when people, because all the questions we're talking about, as soon as I tell people what I do, these are the ones I get. And I love it because it starts to convey that we're doing the right thing. We are making the right decision based on these questions are data. If people continue to ask us this, we know that there's a need. So Correct. We start to make decisions based on that unbiased data.
I think you said something earlier, which is, I just want to point out to everybody. I think we said that the goal of this podcast and one of the things we wanted to share with everybody today was, help investors understand the power of tracking, right? To put it simply.
Yeah. It's not about me telling you what to go do, because then you're doing the same thing that we're talking about not doing on this podcast. For me, when I'm asked, what's the best this? What's the best? We'll go out and try it and track it. And then start to look at the data and ask yourself questions about that data. And ask yourself, if something's happening, why is that happening? And then go 2 levels down and ask more questions about that. And you will find the answers, and you will get a lot more out of it that way, because someone who's on the other end of a microphone telling you what to do won't help you when you're down and out. But once you dig down and you find those answers, the things you discover along the way are the things that are going to help you continue on no matter what happens. Whether that be continue on with this or do what I did. Like, I got into real estate investing because it was an opportunity and I'd heard about all the things it could do. And had I never gotten into real estate, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be doing something I actually love doing, which is, for me, that's always been more appealing to me than building an empire, is getting up every day and doing something I truly love to do. And I anticipate doing really well with myself, or for myself doing it. But either way, I'm doing something I love to do. Exploring why things are happening is what got me here. And that's why I'm so focused on data and getting the things I need to ask the right questions to have the best opportunity to make the right decisions. But then if I make a wrong decision, I can go back and say, okay, how did I look at this the wrong way? And do it all over again.
Exactly. I think I'm going to spend the rest of the afternoon analyzing my life.
Like I said, I'm also a life coach. Sometimes these two intertwine.
Oh, there you go. Handy.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that is super awesome. Well, tell us a little bit more about how people can get involved with Postal Impact, or what services that they can currently get through Postal Impact. Is there, I don't think there is any cost information on the website. Is that, maybe you don't know them because you're not that guy. Maybe you're not the website builder guy, but.
Well, the easiest way is it's postalimpact.com. I'm just Patrick at postalimpact.com. Anyone can feel free to get hold of me, and I'll put you in touch with the right people. We do tend to work with higher level investors. Typically, we're working with people who are spending $10,000 or more a month in marketing, simply because of all the extra work we're going through to get them the results. Because again, it's not simply sending out marketing. There's all this stuff behind the scenes that's going on to ensure that our clients are continuing on the right path.
Excellent.
But yeah, we're, like I said, we already do all the data tracking analysis for our marketing clients. We're just starting to roll it out for clients we're not doing direct marketing with, so that we can kind of, again, use the data to perfect the process.
So we should also be keeping our eyes out. You'll let us know. You'll contact Joe when Postal Impact has additional services as they roll them out, as they crunch through their own data. Is it data or data? I mean,
you know,
like in the Midwest, it's data, and then the, West Coast, it's data. How does it go?
I've always been do what makes you feel best. I mean,
this guy with the.
My name is Patrick. So depending on where I am in the country, I'm either Patrick or Pat. If I'm Virginia or below, it's Pat, no matter what. Hi, I'm Patrick. Nice to meet you, Pat. So data, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Data, whatever. Let me ask you about, just in general, now we're just goofing around for a few minutes about real estate. What do you think about the entire iBuyer? I don't know if this is something that you even think about, but that's all. I don't know. It seems to me like there's all these, like a disrupt and change, like how analytics is now used, right? I mean, you have all these tools out there, that are assists. Like I'll say, there's bots coming out that will, calculate cash offers for you based off of whatever data analytics they're pulling from wherever they're pulling that from, Zillow, or I don't know. That's not my expertise, but do you have any comments about the future of real estate and how data analytics is disrupting or assisting investors and just regular, anybody who's looking to buy or sell real estate?
I mean,
kind of a big question.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. this is the trend with everything. Data analytics isn't new. It's been around for quite some time. I think what we're seeing is it really got big over the past decade. So it hasn't really been necessarily needed. You kind of had the group that got through the downturn 10 years ago. And from then, more people have been getting into it. So as things get more competitive, people want more of an advantage. And what data analytics does, or data analytics does, is give you an advantage, because again, you can see what other people aren't seeing. So it's the natural process as we go through this. And I mean, that's a whole discussion on, the bots and all that stuff. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of stuff that's
it's going to be crazy. I think there's going to be, there's already so many like data or deal analyzer tools, right? Where people are saying we have, proprietary algorithms related to deal analyzer tools, or, we've put a whole package together, of our company, like, maybe like roof stock or something, where we're going to calculate and give you an alert of which are the good deals, right? Or all kinds of stuff like that. Cash buyer bots. To me, it's all very interesting. And I think it's all data crunching, right?
Yeah, it is. And I think it's
data crunching, data.
This is going to be the one thing everyone's going to take away from here is they're not going to know whether to say data or data.
That's right.
You're going to be like, it's going to start this huge feud within Seattle Investing Club on the data group and the data group. No, I think it's about evolving with it. Honestly, if it's out there, people get access to it. Some of it's great, some of it's not. Some of it's needed, some of it's not. It's the same thing we talked about with CRM. Some people want it very simple. I know people who are out there kicking butt with yellow pads still. It's insane.
Right.
And other people who are all data driven and they're killing it as well. I think it's what works for you.
I think it can be intimidating, right? So it's kind of like it's a little intimidating if you feel like where you are in the game on, can you have it or can you not, or do you know about it or do you not? The point is, get started, right? Get
started and understand that change is always going to happen. And if you're afraid of change, you're probably going to get left behind. You don't have to necessarily want all this technology, want all this disruption, want all this progress, but it is coming. So just prepare, whatever that means for you, prepare. Use it, don't use it, figure out even if you this is what it means when I say just get started. Like if you know that you're not going to use something, figure out where that could beat you and then get better at that, or find someone who is good at that so that you can do it your way. And then maybe you find out your way sucks and you say, okay, well, I gave it a go. Let me use the technology.
Exactly. Do you have any, aside from Postal Impact being a spectacular service for those that use it, and the future of what it might be, do you have any favorite real estate tools? And, so you're a real estate guy, you're a data guy. And, what do you like in do you have any tools or things that you would use in your business, or that that you can share with us that you see are cool plugins or apps or anything? We kind of ask everybody, what do you like using, as far as technology goes these days in your business? Even if it's not data analytics. I don't know. Joe's the tech guy on my team, so I don't know how to ask the question appropriately, but you have any tools, plugins, or softwares or apps that you like that you can share with us?
The biggest thing is the nuts and bolts of real estate podcast. That's
good answer.
Numero uno.
Winner.
Yeah, right.
Winner.
So a lot of what I use is stuff a lot of people use. There's an app called Zapier. A lot of people are very familiar with it. I don't think it gets the credit it deserves for what it does. Because what it does, I actually build custom versions of what it does. It's basically webhooks when this happens, send this out, something else grabs it and puts it somewhere else.
And see, I say Zapier, you say Zapier. Here we go again. Right?
I do know it's Zapier. I got corrected by someone who worked there. Yes. which threw me off because then I'm like, was it a Zape or is it a Zap?
Right.
Okay,
Or maybe the person maybe they're just messing with me and knew I'd be on a podcast and sound like
and that's ZAPIER, right? Z as in
yeah,
zebra.
it connects web apps. So things that you do on the web, it connects a lot of things, whether it's your Podio or your Google Sheets or CallRail or RingCentral, all that stuff. It just makes life easier. It takes away having to duplicate things or pay someone a lot of money to do it for you.
How about what do you see as the call rail? Is there we use call rail. Is there a cooler version of call rail out there these days, or?
There could be. I like CallRail. It's easy to use. It integrates into everything.
We use it. Yep.
Yeah,
Love
it's easy. I even have a shirt from them. Maybe I should do that. CallRail, if you're listening, I want another shirt.
Yeah.
But no, it's what we typically recommend just because it's easy to set stuff up. It's easy to analyze stuff. It's easy to pull it out. There are a lot of other great ones.
What do you use to make your life easier in your everyday business of doing whatever it is that you do? Life, or you have any favorite
meditation?
Meditation. Okay.
Makes everything easier.
Do you have any favorite books that you like that you want to share with us?
Oh,
and then we'll let you go.
No, it's all good. I love this. Books, jeez.
Or what do you read?
Ah.
Besides, you have a 3-year-old, so I imagine you're reading like
A lot of Pete the Cat. I read
Yeah.
a lot of Pete the Cat right now.
I hear that.
I mean, I read a lot. I probably have 2 or 3 books I'm reading at all times. I'm like Joe in that area. I read a ton. My personal favorite book is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's fiction, but I think there's a lot to be learned from it, from the human level, and then like financial and that type book. What is it called? The Richest Man in Babylon.
The Richest Man in Babylon. Nice.
Yeah, that's a great one. But it's one of those things that I've read a bunch. I get a lot into like the social economy. Like one book I'm reading right now that's pretty interesting is the World of Three Zeros. I forgot who it's by, but it talks about getting to a world of like what is it? Zero poverty, zero unemployment, zero pollution.
Cool.
I think I like to shake things up.
Or are you like the sharing economy type stuff?
Yeah, I love that stuff. I love just getting different perspectives. I'll read stuff that I don't think I'm going to agree with just to understand them. But I've always thought of if there's someone I don't agree with, I'd rather understand where they're coming from because it's going to lead to a much better conversation. So
what's so funny that how you say that's like your personality. Maybe you realize it, maybe you don't, but that's actually like data analytics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What you just said is sort of data analytics, right? You don't necessarily agree with someone's perspective and you just asked why. So you're going to go get the data on understanding why. There's a different perspective. Ooh,
maybe
look at me. I just data analyzed you.
That's right. It's inception moment.
Maybe I'm not as dumb as I think, right?
It's all about the data.
All about the data. That's right. That's a new term, data, and zap.
Everyone wins.
Everyone wins. Well, this has been spectacularly awesome. And me personally, I have, I enjoy the data. I think about like research. Part of what I love about real estate investing is I just love the deal analyzing. I love the research side of it, which data analytics is some research. So I have warm fuzzies today in my tummy enjoying this topic. And I'm sure there's a lot of geeks. We have a lot of real estate geeks, a lot of people that like to go super deep on research and topics out here in the Seattle area. I've noticed. So hopefully you guys will love this podcast today and get excited about the data that you are gathering for yourself and dive deeper on that. Start tracking like a ninja. And we can't wait to hear what everybody's up to. if you are currently tracking some ninja stuff, what should they do, Joe? Maybe they can drop us a note down in our podcast somewhere and tell us what that is or what tools they're using. I don't know. How does this work?
That'd be fun. Yeah, let's get them to do that. If you have something cool that you're using to track or whatever,
or some indicator, some performance indicator that you are tracking for yourself that hasn't been mentioned here today.
Yeah. Go to seattleinvestorsclub.com/55 and then scroll down to the bottom of the show notes. We've got a lot of them on this one. Scroll all the way down and there will be a comment section down there, and let us know in the comments.
And while you're doing that, you should hit the subscribe button so we can share with you all these ninja guests that we have on this podcast. We just continue to get better and better and more ninja. In the beginning, you just had to listen to me, but now you get to listen to people like Patrick. So this stuff applies everywhere, guys, not just in the Seattle area. So hit that subscribe button wherever that is, and join us for the future of real estate.
Heck yeah. And if you guys like this podcast, please head over to iTunes, give us a review. Every 5-star review that we get helps us to get this podcast out to more people. So we would love you if you did that.
And I have a side bet with Joe that every 5-star review that we get, he has to do 500 push-ups. Yeah. So maybe you should video yourself doing that, Joe, on our next 5-star review.
Oh man, I will do that for you.
Called you out in public.
I will video that. And 500 is a lot. 100 is doable. 500 would leave me sore for a week probably, but I'll do it for you.
Let's get 5-star reviews, and then Joe does 5. We get to watch a video of Joe attempting to do 500 push-ups.
I might have to do that in time-lapse mode so that people don't have to wait around.
Lunch in between.
Yeah. But I'll do it. We get 5-star reviews after podcast number 55, and I will videotape myself doing 500 push-ups.
Awesome.
I'm totally going to go create 5.
Yeah. That's what we get, right? Let's do it. Fun
cool.
With the podcast. All right. Well, that's all I got today, guys. I know you guys are East Coasting it. It's only 12:30 out here. Buddy says, "What's up, Joe? He misses you terribly."
Oh, hi, Buddy.
Yeah, Buddy's our sidekick, my Labradoodle, the most beautiful man in the world. And he says, "What's up?" And I'm going to turn you guys loose so you can go hit your Boston tours. Joe and Patrick, you can, go
analyze some data.
Yeah, go analyze some data. Awesome stuff, guys. Thank you for letting me hang out with you guys today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Cool. Yeah, guys. All right. Well, I will talk to you all later.
Take care. Over and out.
Thanks for listening to the Seattle Investors Club podcast. If you have questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, shoot us an email at info@seattleinvestorsclub.com. Now go out, take that action, and build that real estate business. Thanks for listening.